You've been outside for maybe 10 minutes. That's all it takes. One mosquito finds you, then another, and suddenly the whole evening is ruined. You grab the spray, you light the candle, you do everything right, and they still come back, every single time. Here's what nobody tells you. There are plants sitting in nurseries right now, some of them cheap, some of them beautiful, that mosquitoes genuinely cannot stand. Not plants that sort of help. Plants that have been studied, tested, and shown to interfere with how mosquitoes find you, breed near you, and survive around you. Some of these you've heard of, but a few of them, I'd be surprised if you knew. Stick around, because the last one especially, almost nobody talks about it. Welcome back to Prime Plants. Let's get into it. Number 1. Citronella grass. Most people already know the name. Fewer people know that the candles and sprays sold in stores usually contain only a tiny fraction of the actual citronella oil that makes the real plant effective. If you've tried the candle and felt underwhelmed, that's why the real plant, Cymbopogon nardus, is a tall grass that can grow up to 6 feet. When the leaves are brushed or crushed, they release a sharp lemony oil. That oil contains compounds called citronellol and geraniol, and research has shown these directly interfere with a mosquito's ability to detect its host. They're not just unpleasant to the insect, they're disorienting. Here's the thing most people miss. The plant doesn't do much just sitting there. The oil needs to be released. So placing it near a path where people walk and brush against it, or near a seating area where the breeze moves through it, makes a real difference. A plant sitting alone in a corner of the yard is mostly decoration. It loves full sun and well-drained soil. In cooler climates, grow it in a pot and bring it inside before the first frost. It won't survive a hard freeze. Number 2. Lemon balm. This one surprises people. Lemon balm looks completely ordinary. It's a low, bushy herb with slightly crinkled leaves and a gentle smell when you're standing near it. But crush a leaf between your fingers and it's a different experience entirely. That strong, almost sharp lemon scent comes from a compound called citronellal, the same one in citronella grass, combined with several other volatile oils. Studies have found lemon balm extracts to be genuinely effective as a repellent when applied to skin. But even as a garden plant, it creates a zone that mosquitoes tend to avoid. Grow it near doorways, near patio edges, near anywhere you sit outside regularly, and it spreads. That can be a good thing or a very overwhelming thing depending on your garden. If you want it contained, a pot works well. If you want ground coverage around a patio or along a fence line, let it run. Either way, it's low maintenance, tolerates partial shade, and comes back year after year in most climates. There's also a practical bonus here. Lemon balm makes an excellent tea and has some evidence behind it for reducing anxiety. A plant that keeps mosquitoes away and helps you sleep better is a reasonable investment. Number 3. Lavender. Everyone knows lavender smells good. Fewer people know why mosquitoes hate it. The main compounds, linalool and linalool acetate, are what give lavender its characteristic scent. To humans, calming and pleasant. To insects, including mosquitoes, they appear to block olfactory receptors. Some research suggests mosquitoes exposed to lavender compounds struggle to locate hosts at all. Lavender is also one of the more beautiful options on this list, which matters if you're thinking about where to plant it. Along a walkway, bordering a patio, under windows, it looks intentional and well kept. And unlike some other plants on this list, it's fairly drought tolerant once established, which makes it practical in drier regions. One detail worth noting: not all lavender is equally potent. Lavandin, which is a hybrid often sold cheaply at garden centers, produces more oil by volume than true English lavender, which can make it more effective as a repellent. If you can find it, French lavender also has a distinctly stronger scent and tends to bloom longer in warmer climates. Plant it in full sun, avoid overwatering, and it'll come back reliably. If you dry the flowers, you get a natural moth repellent for closets as a secondary benefit. Number 4. Catnip. Here's where things get interesting. In 2010, researchers at Iowa State University presented findings at a national chemistry conference showing that nepetalactone, the active compound in catnip, was roughly 10 times more effective as a mosquito repellent than DEET in laboratory conditions. 10 times that number needs some context. Lab conditions aren't your backyard. DEET is still considered one of the most reliable repellents for high exposure situations. But the fact that a common garden herb contains a compound that potent is worth paying attention to. Catnip is easy to grow. It grows fast, it spreads, it tolerates a range of conditions. You can crush the leaves and rub them on your skin for more immediate protection, or simply grow it in clusters around areas where you spend time outside. The obvious downside is the cat situation. If neighborhood cats visit your yard, they will find your catnip, they will roll in it, they will flatten it with visible enthusiasm. This is not a gardening problem with a clean solution. A raised bed or a hanging planter keeps it out of reach. Number 5. Rosemary. Rosemary produces a complex mix of aromatic oils, including camphor and eucalyptus, both of which have documented insect-repelling properties. It's been used for exactly this purpose for centuries in Mediterranean cultures, burned in outdoor fires and woven into cloth, long before anyone had isolated the individual compounds. As a garden plant, rosemary is slow to establish but extremely hardy once it's settled. In warm climates, it becomes a large, woody shrub that can live for decades. In colder regions, it's better grown in a pot that can be moved indoors. The practical tip here is fire. If you have a backyard fire pit or even a small grill, tossing a few fresh rosemary sprigs directly onto the coals releases a concentrated cloud of those repellent oils. It smells excellent to anyone sitting around the fire and creates a genuine barrier. People who've tried this tend to keep doing it. Number 6. Basil. Basil is the only herb on this list that is toxic to mosquito larvae. That distinction matters. While most plants on this list work as repellents, interfering with how mosquitoes detect you, basil goes one step further by targeting reproduction. A study published in the journal Parasitology Research found that basil extract showed significant larvicidal activity against two of the most common mosquito species. The likely cause is a combination of estragol, linalool, and eugenol, all present in the plant's oils. Practically, this means placing basil near standing water has real value. Near a bird bath, a garden pond, a rain barrel, anywhere that could become a breeding site. You're not just masking yourself from adult mosquitoes, you're reducing the number that get to adulthood in the first place. Sweet basil, lemon basil, and holy basil all show these properties to varying degrees. Holy basil, also called tulsi, appears to have the highest concentration of relevant compounds and is worth seeking out if you can find it at a nursery. And of course, you're growing culinary basil at the same time. That's a functional garden in the most literal sense. Number 7. Peppermint. The menthol in peppermint is one of the stronger plant-based repellents that exists. It's also one of the most immediate. Crush a leaf and rub it on your wrist and you'll feel it working within seconds, that cooling sensation on the skin. Mosquitoes register it very differently. Research has shown menthol to be toxic to mosquito larvae at certain concentrations and to repel adults effectively. Peppermint spreads aggressively. This is either its best feature or its worst one depending on your garden goals. It spreads underground through rhizomes, so unless it's contained, it will eventually take over whatever bed you plant it in. Most people find it easiest to grow in pots. But placed strategically along a porch edge or near an entrance, pots of peppermint create a consistent aromatic barrier. They're easy to move, you can bring them inside in winter, and if you brush past them on the way into the house, you're getting a light application of repellent just from contact. The smell is clean and familiar, which matters if you're planting near where people eat or sit. It doesn't impose the way some other aromatic plants can. Number 8. Marigolds. Most gardeners know marigolds as companion plants. They've been placed next to vegetables for generations, partly for pest control, partly for tradition. But the specific compound they produce, pyrethrum, is the reason they've earned that reputation. Pyrethrum is the natural precursor to the synthetic pyrethroids used in many commercial insecticides. When marigolds release it through their flowers and foliage, they create a chemical environment that many insects, including mosquitoes, find actively hostile. The African marigold variety, Tagetes erecta, produces more of this compound than the smaller French variety commonly found at garden centers. It's taller, bolder, and frankly more effective if mosquito control is the goal. Play them at garden borders, in pots near seating areas, along the outer edge of any space you want to protect. They're also one of the easiest plants to grow from seed, cost almost nothing, and bloom from late spring well into autumn. Here's the small detail most people miss. The smell is strongest in direct sun and warmth. A shaded pot of marigolds does less work than the same plant sitting in full afternoon sun. Placement matters more than quantity. Number 9. Lemon thyme. You might walk past this one at a nursery without a second glance. It looks modest, small leaves, low growth, more of a ground cover than a statement plant. But research conducted in 2011 found that rubbing lemon thyme leaves on the skin provided protection comparable to 50% DEET in field conditions. That's a striking number. The key is a compound called thymol, which gives thyme its characteristic sharp scent. In lemon thyme, it combines with citronella to produce something the mosquitoes' chemoreceptors seem to find deeply unpleasant. As a garden plant, it tolerates drought well, spreads slowly, and stays compact. It works well as a border plant between stepping stones or in containers. You can use it in cooking. The flavor is mild and citrusy, so nothing goes to waste. Crushing the leaves and rubbing them on exposed skin gives you the most direct effect. It won't last as long as a synthetic repellent, roughly an hour to 2 hours before it fades. But for a short evening outside, it's genuinely useful, and you're not putting anything synthetic on your skin. Number 10. Pennyroyal. Now we're getting into the less familiar territory. Pennyroyal is a low-growing member of the mint family. It's been used as an insect repellent since ancient Greece. Roman writers described it. Medieval herbalists catalogued it. And yet today, most people have never heard of it. The compound responsible for its repellent properties is pulegon. Studies have found it effective against mosquitoes, fleas, and other biting insects. The plant releases it continuously when grown outdoors, creating an ambient barrier that's strongest near the plant itself. One important note: pennyroyal should not be ingested, and it should be kept away from pets, particularly cats and dogs. In large quantities, pulegon is toxic. As a garden plant you handle occasionally, it poses no meaningful risk. But you wouldn't brew it into tea, and you wouldn't let an animal eat it. Grown responsibly, along the edge of a patio, in containers near an outdoor seating area, it's a highly effective and historically validated repellent that costs almost nothing to establish and maintains itself with very little attention. We're 10 plants in, and I'm curious, which of these are you actually going to try? Drop it in the comments below. It helps me know what to go deeper on. And if you haven't subscribed to Prime Plants yet, it takes 2 seconds, and we cover this kind of practical plant knowledge every week. Now, here are the last plants on the list, and I saved the more unusual ones for here. Number 11. Garlic. Garlic repels mosquitoes in 2 ways, and one of them surprises people. The first is obvious. The sulfur compounds garlic releases from its foliage are unpleasant to mosquitoes. Planting it in beds, along walkways, near sitting areas, creates a diffuse chemical environment they tend to avoid. The second is less known. When you eat garlic regularly, trace amounts of its active compounds, particularly allicin and its breakdown products, are excreted through your skin. Some evidence suggests this makes you less attractive to mosquitoes from the inside out. This isn't dramatic, and it isn't a substitute for repellent in high exposure conditions. But it's real, and it's one of the few dietary interventions that appears to have any actual effect. Growing garlic is slower than most herbs, planted in autumn, harvested in summer, but it's low effort, deeply practical as food, and the foliage alone does useful repellent work during the growing season. The flower stalks, called scapes, are edible and appear in late spring. Nothing is wasted. Number 12. Geraniums, specifically the scented variety. Regular garden geraniums have some mild effect, but the scented geranium, particularly Pelargonium citrosum, which is sometimes marketed under the name mosquito plant, is the one worth knowing. This plant produces citronella in significant quantities, the same compound found in citronella grass, but in a more compact, pot-friendly form. It was studied extensively in the 1980s and 90s, and the evidence for its direct repellent effect as a passive plant is mixed. Some studies found measurable impact, others found minimal effect from the plant simply sitting in a garden. Here's the thing. The distinction is again about physical interaction. When leaves are touched, brushed against, or lightly crushed, the oil release is significant. Positioning the plant somewhere people will naturally make contact with it, along a narrow path, at the edge of a table, next to a frequently opened gate, turns a passive plant into an active one. It's also beautiful in the way only slightly unusual plants can be. Deeply lobed leaves, soft texture, pink flowers, and that hit of citrus when you touch it. Number 13. Eucalyptus, the oil of lemon eucalyptus derived from Corymbia citriodora, is the only plant-based repellent recommended by the CDC alongside DEET and picaridin for protection against mosquito-borne illness. That recommendation is not given lightly. The active compound is paramenthane 3,8-diol. It works by masking the human-specific chemical signals that mosquitoes use to locate hosts. In concentrated, refined form, it can provide protection for up to 6 hours. As a garden tree, lemon eucalyptus can grow very large in warm climates, sometimes reaching 30 feet or more. In containers, growth is restricted and it stays manageable. The leaves, when crushed, release the characteristic sharp, medicinal scent that mosquitoes respond to so strongly. It's not the most practical option for a small patio garden, but if you have outdoor space and a warm climate, a lemon eucalyptus tree is perhaps the single most scientifically validated plant-based mosquito deterrent you can grow. Number 14. Pitcher plants and other carnivorous species. This is where the conversation changes entirely. Most of the plants we've discussed work through chemical repulsion. They change the environment in ways mosquitoes dislike. Carnivorous plants do something fundamentally different. They kill. Pitcher plants, specifically species in the Sarracenia and Nepenthes families, trap and digest insects that fall into their modified leaves. Mosquitoes are documented prey. Research has found mosquito larvae and adults inside pitcher plants in the wild. Some species have been observed deliberately attracting mosquitoes with scent and visual cues. Sundews and Venus flytraps also capture mosquitoes, though they tend to be more effective on smaller insects that land directly on the sticky surfaces. Here's the honest caveat. A single pitcher plant is not going to solve a mosquito problem. The volume of insects these plants can process is small, but as part of a broader strategy, combined with repellent plants, eliminating standing water, and encouraging natural predators, they add something the other plants on this list cannot. They reduce the population directly. They also require specific care. Carnivorous plants need mineral-free water, typically rainwater or distilled water, and high humidity. They're not maintenance-free, but they're genuinely fascinating, and the mosquito-killing aspect is real. Bonus section. And this is the one almost nobody talks about. Beautyberry. American beautyberry, Calicarpa americana, is a large native shrub found growing along roadsides and forest edges in the southeastern United States. It produces striking clusters of bright purple berries in late summer, which is how most people encounter it. If you've seen it, you remember it, but the mosquito connection comes from a different direction entirely. In 2006, researchers at the USDA Agricultural Research Service published a study in the journal Hort Science documenting that compounds extracted from beautyberry leaves showed mosquito-repellent activity comparable to DEET in some tests. The specific compounds identified were calicarpenol and intermediol, two naturally occurring chemicals not commonly found in other plants. The interesting history here is that folk use of beautyberry as a repellent predates any scientific interest in it by generations. People in rural southern communities had been crushing the leaves and rubbing them on skin, or tucking branches under horse tack to deter insects, long before anyone in a laboratory took it seriously. The research essentially confirmed what people had been doing by instinct for a century. As a garden plant, beautyberry is legitimately beautiful. The purple berry clusters appear in late summer and persist into autumn, at which point birds start eating them. It tolerates partial shade, grows fast, and requires almost no maintenance once established. In colder climates, it dies back to the ground in winter and comes back from the roots in spring. Crush a leaf and smell it. It doesn't have the sharp, obvious fragrance of mint or citronella. It's subtler, but the chemical action is there, and the historical record of its use is long enough that it deserves far more attention than it gets. Before we wrap up, the strategy question. Because individual plants matter less than how you use them, the most effective approach combines 3 layers. First, repellent plants near where you sit and walk. Things like lemon thyme, peppermint, lavender, or citronella grass at patio edges and pathways. Second, larvicidal plants near any standing water. Basil in particular near bird baths, water features, rain barrels. Third, ambient plants with broader coverage like marigolds and rosemary at garden borders. Eliminating standing water entirely remains the single most impactful thing you can do. A bottle cap of standing water is enough for a mosquito to lay eggs. Gutters, plant saucers, low spots in the yard, the plants help. But they work best when the breeding opportunities are removed first. So there's your list. 14 plants, a few familiar, a few that might have surprised you. The science behind them varies in strength, some backed by rigorous field studies, some by lab research, some by centuries of practical use, but none of them are invented. All of them have real mechanisms behind why they work. If you're starting from zero, I'd suggest lemon balm, basil near any water, and a pot of peppermint near your door. Those three together cost almost nothing and cover the main approaches we talked about. What did you find most useful in this video? Leave it in the comments below. If there are specific plants you'd like me to go deeper on, or a follow-up topic like companion planting for pest control or growing a full sensory garden, let me know there. And if you found this worth your time, subscribe to Prime Plants. We put out new content every week, and this is exactly the kind of thing we cover. See you in the next one.